point statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Heat fans, time for the best insight of your favorite team with insider Ira Winderman, exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. It's the Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat and NBA report. Here's Ira Winderman.
It's a happy Monday because when football does well on Sunday, it's a happy Monday. And happy Monday to you, Ira Winderman.
And a happy Monday to you. And when you think about it, going back to the Canes win on Thursday, the Marlins look fan-freaking-tastic over the weekend. And even InterMiami, even with the bad loss against Atlanta, it's clear they prioritized winning the Hunt Cup, winning what they can do, and also not running Messi into the ground at his age. So I would say all in all, and you know what? Let's also kick in there. It was a little ugly, but Florida State pulled it out. Florida, hell of a win over Tennessee. Yeah, you wake up feeling pretty damn good on this Monday morning. A Monday morning that is 2 weeks from the start of Miami Heat camp.
And by the way, also Coach McIntyre and FIU also won too, so congratulations. They actually look like a different football team. I watched some of it on Saturday, and they actually looked organized. So Coach McIntyre also doing a nice job there. So good weekend overall. Now, by the way, there is something bad that happened this weekend.
Welt Rheaume.
Oh, yeah. Winning Time got canceled.
Yeah. I just know out of the blue, because if you watch the series finale, it just ended. It just, okay. And then after this, the Lakers did this, and this, and we're all done. And I really found it curious because you could tell another season was planned. You can tell there was too much in the story arc where it just ended. Right. But you know what? Big O, you know this, in this metrics-oriented money, cost versus efficiency world, when something doesn't work, we're in the era of you just pull the plug and you move on, and it's a shame because it was getting real fun. And look, you probably were watching it like I watch it. The Pat Riley metamorphosis from what we saw working with Paul Westhead, becoming the crazy man coach, smoking the cigarettes, and then you're done. I almost wanted to see the next iterations. I understood it wouldn't go to the Knicks, wouldn't go to the Heat, but you saw his evolution early, and I understand it's all theater. Adrian Brody is freaking fantastic in that role. That was the most enjoyable part for me on Sunday nights, Monday mornings when I got to watch it. Yeah, it's a shame.
If somebody wants to do the Pat Riley story instead of the Showtime story, just the Pat Riley story, which, by the way, would be one hell of a freaking story where you go from L.A. to New York to Miami, you got your actor. You got the guy already. So if you have any ideas of doing it, Adrian Brody's your guy, because it was a pleasure to watch him do his thing. And when I saw this morning that it was canceled, I was disappointed. Yeah. And you're right, they kind of rushed it towards the end there like a bunch of shit. They went from 1981 to almost 83 right away. And it was like, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm with you there. But
I don't think Pat Riley would sign off on something like that, because I think Pat has realized he's changed so much. I'm not saying that Pat Riley doesn't like the person he was in LA or like the person he was with the Knicks or like the person he was early in the Heat, but we all see it as we get older. And I think when Pat reflects back, I think he'd just rather move on also. So I think if something like that Big O is done, I'm not sure it'll necessarily be done as one of those quote unquote authorized biographies.
Yeah. We all change. We all evolve. I mean, none of us are the same people we were when we were teenagers or in our 20s or 30s. Once we're into our 50s or 60s or 70s, you live, you learn, you grow, you evolve. I mean, you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes, and all those things happen. So, I mean, that's just normal, really. It's kind of weird if you're the exact same person, when you were 20 and you're 70.
Kind of scary, yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird. All right. So we've got the PR department there. I'm sorry, Adrian Wojnarowski talking that all the talks and everything are, picking up with Portland and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there going, Woj, everybody knows to avoid them. So if it ain't the Heat, who the hell's talking to them? I mean, give me a break. So what am I supposed to believe? How am I supposed to decipher this BS?
You know what? And it's interesting because there was also a report of the Heat gaining traction in X amount of period of time. This has nothing to do with the Heat. This has everything to do with the Trailblazers. They have the commodity. They will decide the time frame and how it's approached. In other words, Big O, let's say you wake up every morning, you walk by your neighbor's house. He has the classic Thunderbird that you want to buy, but it's not for sale. Well, you can get aggressive or whatever you want, but if he's not selling it, you can't buy it. That's what's happening with the Blazers. You know what bothers me here, Big O, is this, is the notion of, well, they took the summer to see what would happen. And you heard Woj's report, teams are on vacation, people are away. I wrote this in my Ask Ira today. We live in a ultimately connected world where you can be reached any moment at any time. You have email, you have text. Pat Riley has millions of assistants. If you need to get something to Pat while he's on the Cinque Terre out there in Italy, the message will get through to him with the time difference. So if I'm the Blazers, I'm walking into Joe Cronin's office and I'm saying, hey, if there's a deal to be made, what the hell were you doing the last 2 months? Sitting back and waiting. Why weren't you being more aggressive with it? Why wasn't Portland calling every single NBA team, 29 other teams? What can we do? What can the deal be here? But when you're afraid to make a move, and Big O, you know this, you've moved from different platforms, from different stations. It's hard to pull the trigger sometimes, but you have to. You have to be aggressive if you want to succeed. It was hard for Pat Riley to pull the trigger on some of the trades he did, to make those decisions, but you have to do it. I honestly think when this whole thing is done and played out, and Damian Lillard is dealt probably to the Heat, probably before the trade deadline, likely before the start of the season, I'm not so sure how much longer Joe Cronin has in Portland, because this has not been a good look or a good chapter for the Blazers or for Joe Cronin and for getting business done with their iconic player. No sooner did Dwayne Wade leave for the Chicago Bulls. You remember this, Big O. Pat Riley basically apologized and said, we didn't handle it well. You don't handle your elite player like that. There was consternation and apologies when Zoe went to New Jersey in the Nets after the kidney illness and what the Heat did. You realize what it means to be a part of your franchise and a part of the legacy. The Trailblazers are what they are. When was the last time the Portland Trailblazers were truly relevant in the NBA contention scene?
God, it's Clyde Drexler. It's those teams with Jerome Kersey from Longwood College.
Yeah, and Terry Porter and Kevin Duckworth, God bless him, so rest in peace. Yeah, I mean, you have to go back.
They were relevant. They were like a really good franchise.
Lost to the Bulls in the finals. Yeah. So you know what? Again, it's hard to pull the trigger and change. They were in a great spot. Big O, if I was talking to you about that being my team, and we were doing the Acura Pembroke Pines Portland Trailblazers report, I would be sitting here today with you 2 weeks before camp going, you know what, Big O, we got Scoot Henderson, we got Shaedon Sharpe, we got Anthony Simons. We might have the best backcourt in the NBA within the next 5 years, and I'm excited. And instead, they're waffling. What are you going to be? What do you want to be? And your fans and your fan base are left twisted in the wind. So Acura of Portland has no Trailblazers report because they don't know what they want to be.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. It's funny to hear them try to drum up some kind of interest when clearly it's two teams, the Portland Trailblazers and the Miami Heat. And until the Trailblazers want to finish this thing out, it ain't going to happen.
And there's a deal to be done. Yes, I agree.
You talked explain a little bit, because maybe not everybody has it, but you were talking a little bit about Bam becoming a bigger part of USA basketball with maybe Jimmy not maybe taking a step back. Explain a little bit there so folks know.
There are a couple of things I wrote in my Sunday column. I think I'll use the family language here in the Acura Pembroke Pines. I think Bam Adebayo has been really crapped on by USA basketball. Look, they crapped the bed when they went overseas to the Philippines and didn't get a medal in the World Cup. It happens. In the U.S., that's viewed as a secondary competition. Most of us are getting ready for football. At the Paris Olympics in August, in late July, we'll all be watching. I get that. So now people are saying the U.S. needs to send its best. They need to send real big men, because the USA big men were terrible. Jaren Jackson getting foul trouble, Paolo Banchero playing out of position. So I understand they want to get Joel Embiid, who has a decision to make. He could play for France, his native country, his native land, his native passport, or the U.S. where he's become a citizen. Grant Hill, in charge of USA Basketball, has to twist and make a decision, and it's tough because the Olympics are in France, so Embiid could be tempted. They're trying to get Joel Embiid. They're trying to bring back Anthony Davis in the program, big man who can score, and I get all that. They're talking about other big players in there also. Bam Adebayo, if I'm bringing in stars, Orlando. Matter of fact, this goes exactly to what you've been telling me the last 2 years in our accurate Pembroke Pines report. If you're bringing in the LeBrons and the Durants and the great players, you need the ultimate superstar complementary player. Bam Adebayo, super role player. And again, I want to see the little trademark after it, the little registered eventually at some point, because you will get a T-shirt deal out of this. He's the perfect player for those guys. Bam goes through the entire season deferring to Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and anyone else who comes along. He will set screens for you willingly. He will defend the crap out of it for all the non-defenders, just like he does every single freaking night for the Miami Heat. So I think the notion of who should be on the next U.S. Olympic team after they bombed out of the World Cup, I think you have to put Bam front and center there. This guy was loyal to you when the Olympics were postponed in 2020 because of COVID. He went to Tokyo in 2021. They won the gold medal there. I think he should be among the first names you mentioned as big men for the Olympic team instead of, well, if we get Embiid and we get Anthony Davis, then we'll see if we need Bam. That's wrong. I think that's where he gets crapped on. And then I also wrote in my Sunday column about these new work rules where no two stars can be held out of the same game. Well, we know Jimmy Butler's going to miss 20 games because we know Jimmy Butler's going to miss 20 games. Right. So every night, Eric Spoelstra has a decision. Well, you know what? We're on a 3-game winning streak. Our guys are tired. I want to sit Bam and Jimmy. 3 times that happened last year. He can't do it this year. Well, you know Jimmy's going to make his own decision. If Eric Spoelstra goes to Jimmy, Jimmy, you're playing tonight, Jimmy Butler has the right to go, yeah, no, I'm not. And then all of a sudden, Bam becomes the guy. This team has relied so much on Bam. And Bam has been such a good soldier, or some like to say super role player, that he has gone along with everything. I just think Bam deserves more respect for, one, what he's done down here in ultimately supporting Jimmy Butler and the team and what he's done on the national scene. You know what? Coaches always make these, sort of quotes. Oh, if I had a daughter, I'd want him to marry Bam. If I had a team, and Big O, you and I can debate, we will through the season, how much of an all-star or all-NBA player he is. But if I had a team, I would want a Bam Adebayo on my team. And I think he deserves more respect for that.
For sure. There's no doubt you want Bam on your team. He's just not the lead guy. But, okay, so when I read that, right, and maybe they're guilty of this, and maybe this is what happens to Bam now, because he does not choose to be a force offensively, because he isn't aggressive naturally offensively, does that end up hurting him in that image thing? Because, like, okay, we need people for the USA basketball. All right, let's get the guys that can score. And you start thinking points because that's what we think. We think offense. And so then we don't think Bam first because we think of Bam as the ultimate team player, the guy that does everything, the guy that defers to everyone, like you just said.
And maybe a little too much.
Yeah. Exactly. And so because of the way he sells himself, okay, even though we all know deep down inside, Bam, dude, you can be better than this. You just can be better than this. And because this is the way you sell yourself like a super role player, then the image of other people, they're looking at you like, yeah, no, hell of a player. He can help you in all these different ways. But they're not thinking of that guy. They're thinking of chicks dig the long ball. They're just thinking of the bright, shiny object. They're thinking of the obvious, and he doesn't bring the obvious. So I wonder, because of who he is, does that hurt him when they're trying to put things together? They're lazy in themselves. They're not thinking about, we definitely need Bam because he's the guy that's going to set a pick. He's going to facilitate. He's going to defend every position on the floor. His effort is going to be second to none. We need a guy like that to set the table for everything else outside of scoring. That's not the way they think, obviously. So
And
does it hurt Bam being Bam sometimes?
it does, but I'm going to put you back in the spot. And I like to do this because we do our reports early in the week on the Acura Pembroke Pines report, and then you can work through it the rest of the week. But Big O, all of that said, I think we both agree he deserves every shot to make the Olympic team. He deserves every shot to expand his offense on the Heat if he wants. But I'm going to put you on the spot now. Bam Adebayo next summer is eligible if he makes an All-NBA team or is a Defensive Player of the Year, which he could be, for a 5-year, you ready? $300 million extension. Now I want to know, as much as Orlando Alzugaray loves Bam Adebayo, Orlando Alzugaray is now taking over for Andy Ellisberg as Heat GM. Big O, how are you going to deal with that next summer when Bam is eligible, which is basically also just right now Jaylen Brown money, but it impacts your cap, especially if you have Lillard, especially if you have Butler. So, Big O, you just had nothing but platitudes and compliments for Bam Adebayo. How do you handle this in July 2024 when he will be eligible possibly for 5 at $300 million?
Yeah, I would probably have to pass that up because we're talking like $60 million a year or something like that. Yeah,
a lot of money, superstar money. Yeah,
because you're already carrying Lillard and Butler, and you need offense in this league, and you cannot tie your salary up to a guy that could be more offense if he wanted to, but he just doesn't do it.
So it's just interesting. There's always another part of the equation.
That's why I keep telling you that if you want superstar money, then you got to give me superstar type of performance. And the super role player stuff is fantastic to a certain extent. It just gets to the point where I can't give you the same kind of money I give a franchise player than I give a super role player. That's going to be my problem. And again, this is why, if Bam was a stiff like Rodman offensively, then I would understand that, Rodman, that was his pinnacle on offense. He was never going to be anything on offense. You know what I mean? Because he just didn't have the skill set. This dude's got the skill set. I mean, he's got a sick skill set that he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. If he wants to become a post player, if he wants to start shooting threes, I just don't know what it is about Bam that he just refuses to be that guy.
Well, you know what? Calipari pigeonholed him in that because of the talent he had at Kentucky. Then you have a guy like Bam who arrives to the Heat with the quality of scorers they have. We were talking the Goran Dragic era, players like that, Hassan getting all his numbers. So I think he's sort of settled into that as a great team player, which Eric Spoelstra always talks about sacrifice and making your teammates better. It's going to be an interesting offseason decision they have. And here's what's almost unfair about the NBA and what you mentioned, Big O. Damian Lillard doesn't play a lick of defense, but he scores, he gets paid. Tyler Hero doesn't play a lick of defense, but he scores and he gets paid. Now you have a guy who does everything but score, and he does everything well. Sets his screens, defends, moves the ball, passes a fulcrum off the elbow, but he doesn't score. You know what? It's offense first. It's like, it goes back to me when people talk about Messi through his career and how he never gets back on defense and how he jogs back, but he scores like an MFer. And he puts the ball into the net, and that's what matters. This is a scoring league. It's what matters. You pay offense first for as much as you preach. Defense and rebounds wins rings. I agree.
Prayers for Juwan Howard. Man, we are getting old, brother. I mean, holy crap, dude. A bulge in the aortic wall. Apparently everything, he had the operation, everything went well.
It's crazy how you hear something like that and then they go, relatively routine surgery. It's just what, as you know, you've been through it, what they can do with our bodies and get us back up to speed, where you read something like that, wait, he's undergoing heart surgery, and then you see the paragraph and he should be ready for the start of the season. Crazy times, prayers out to him, but from what it's as bad as it sounds like he'll be back on the sidelines in Michigan. So Godspeed to him.
That is awesome that he's going to be back. But man, we are getting old, man. It is crazy stuff. All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapy. What are you working on the Sun Sentinel this week?
Well, I'll give you a news nugget first, just so you can talk about it at another point. A lot of people pointed out that Kyle Lowry was sitting next to Chauncey Billups at the Colorado State game over this week, and it was very interesting. As soon as ESPN's cameras went to the booth and it showed the two of them, Chauncey skedaddled out of there. just so people know, Kyle Lowry.
Right? Tampering stuff. Is that why?
Well, not that. It's just because there might be a trade, there might not. And Chauncey, again, like you and I talked about here, might have to talk to Damian Lillard on media day. He doesn't want any part of that. Kyle Lowry has a family member, a cousin who works on Chauncey Billups' staff. So there is a relationship natural there beyond the Damian Lillard trade talks. But yeah, it kind of looked awkward. But as you saw from Coach Prime's game in Colorado, everyone was there from the Rock on down. It's sort of, Colorado Springs has become the place to be. Boulder, rather, has become the place to be. I worked on a story. I did a story today on Cole Swider, the shooter the Heat brought in from the Lakers for camp, and how we spoke about the one thing I like about this place. They just don't bring in guys in the offseason just to have bodies to run camp. They give you a chance. And he said he could have signed elsewhere, but he saw Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Orlando Robinson, and he said, you know what? I'm going to have a chance here. Max Strus is gone. Duncan Robinson could be gone. If so, keep an eye on Cole Swider. As he said, the best shooter in basketball. So it'll be interesting. He could be one of those camp names that you and I are talking about when camp opens in 2 weeks.
Always matters. Heat camp always matters. Summer League always matters, man, because they can find them. That's for damn sure. Subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And, of course, support my man here, Ira Winderman, and many of the other terrific writers there at that newspaper. And follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Ira, as always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. And enjoy the Woj reports, even if they're inaccurate.
Catch you next week on our Acura Pembroke Pines Report. Thanks, Big O.
You've been listening to the Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA Report with Ira Winderman. When you're looking for award-winning service and great deals from the #1 volume Acura sales dealership in the Southeast United States, you go to Craig's Inn Acura of Pembroke Pines at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show.